indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to the August 2023 board meeting. We'll start with the roll call. Please note that all board members are present except Ms. Moulton. Are there any conflicts to report this evening? Item 2.2.
I will just note one conflict, just for moving forward, that I am employed with the Black Hills Special Services, which is an educational cooperative out of the Black Hills, and so if, sometimes they have contracts with the district, and if that would ever happen, I'll recuse myself from voting.
Okay, thank you. Item 2.3, review and approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by John. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Laura. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2.3 has been approved. Moving to item 2.4, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the July 10th board meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Laura, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rossman. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2.4 has been approved. Next, we'll hear from Heidi with the financial reports.
Thank you. The general fund received the first monthly state aid payment in the estimated amount of $1,166,519. This amount will be adjusted once the district's 23-24 enrollment is verified. The revenue was exceeded by the expenditures, which is typical for July. Expenditures included the renewal to workmen's compensation insurance in the amount of $81,371 and liability insurance in the amount of $250,000. A payment to security benefit for the annual early retirement payment in the amount of $376,000. This fund's ending cash position reflects a slight decrease when compared to the prior year. In the capital outlay fund, the revenue consists of the typical July property taxes. Expenditures included $1.6 million in debt service payments. This fund's ending cash position of $5.9 million reflects an increase with that of the prior year, when the remaining certificate allocation for the remodel of the high school is retained from the balance. Special education received the first monthly state aid payment in the estimated amount of $230,000. This amount will also fluctuate slightly until the final enrollment numbers are confirmed. The expenditures exceeded the revenue for the month of July as typical. This fund's ending cash position of $1.4 million reflects improvement over the prior years. The steady increase in this fund balance from year to year is positive as we work towards a fund balance projection at fiscal year end that is closer to 15% of annual expenditures. Lake Area Tech received several different revenue sources. Expenditures exceeded the revenue for the month with the cash position of this fund below that of the previous year. The decrease in cash position is expected as LATC expenses construction in progress each month. The diesel and archway construction expenditures included $825,000 for the month of July. Revenue is expected from the foundation in future months to cover contributions towards the construction in progress. In the Employee Benefit Trust, the premiums were exceeded by the claims and administrative costs during the month. This is typical as the district's 10-month employees do not contribute to the plan during the month of July and August. The ending cash position of $4 million reflects a decrease. Premium increases to the plan will take place in September payroll. The trend of the plan anticipates that increased premiums will be necessary in future years to come. The enterprise fund operations were moderate and are ready to gear up for another school year. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Hearing none, we will move. Thank you, Heidi. We'll move to item 3.1. Is there anyone here from the public to speak on agenda or non-agenda items? Doesn't appear so. Move to Lake Area Tech with personnel. 4.1 personnel. We'll start with the retirements.
Thank you. I did want to make note, we have our interim vice president in the house tonight. Shane Swenson is helping us in our interim, so really appreciate his efforts. We do have one retirement, longtime front desk manager in the cosmetology department, Rosemary York, and we thank her for her years of service and recommend you approve that.
Is there a motion to approve the retirement?
I'll make a motion to approve retirement.
Motion by Laura. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Rossman. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That retirement has been approved. We'll move to the resignations. Item 4.1.2.
Okay, then we have two resignations, one in the precision machining, and the other one in the emissions, and also recommend those for approval.
Is there a motion to approve the resignations as presented?
I make a motion to approve resignations as presented.
Motion by Lohr, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rossman. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resignations have been approved. Item 4.1.3, contract recommendations and addendums.
Okay, we have several contract recommendations there. Most notably, the addition of Cam Corey as vice president to take over for Diane Stiles. And then we have a few in there just to make note of, like the Educators Rising State Advisor. That's with our affiliation with the state on some of those high school advising positions like FFA. And then we have adjunct faculty, a number of them, one corp ed, and then one temporary full-time to help us in the Mind Grind, the coffee shop at Lake Area. And don't be afraid to stop in for coffee there. Their walk-ins are welcome, no drive-through. Please don't drive through Lake Area to get your coffee. And also Market 65 is also available, open to the public if they'd like to come grab breakfast or lunch. So recommend for approval.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the contract recommendations and addendums as presented?
I will make a motion to approve the contract recommendations and addendums.
Motion by Lohr, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rossman. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That has been approved. Item 4.1.4, stipend requests.
You see you have 7 staff members that are eligible and meet the criteria to have requests for stipend, and recommend those for your approval. They would need to complete the coursework in order to be paid their stipends.
Is there a motion to approve the stipend requests?
I make a motion to approve the stipend requests.
Motion by Lohr, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rossman. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Stipend requests have been approved. We'll move to property. Item 4.2.1, consider the equipment of the scissor lift.
Yes, Lake Area Tech recommends accepting the quoted price of $65,443 from the Hunter Engineering Company for 2 automotive scissor lifts that will be utilized by students in the automotive technology program. The equipment is funded through the GOED equipment grant and budgeted at $70,000.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Jim Iverson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lohr. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's been approved. Please make a note, Heidi, that Miss Moulton has joined us after being delayed by the train, which I can attest to. I sent a picture of it. Danielson as well. I keep that picture on file though, just whenever you need it.
It's the same train every time, Stuart.
Yeah, Photoshop works great these days. Filters and stuff. Okay, welcome, Jean.
Thanks.
Item 4.2.2, consider equipment, the bid fleet vehicles.
Yes, Lake Area Tech recommends accepting the sole bid from Watertown Ford Chrysler to purchase 3 fleet vehicles totaling $111,533, including 2 Ford Escapes and 1 Jeep Grand Cherokee. The vehicles are budgeted at $100,000 and are included in the vehicle service budget. The bid meets all specifications.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we accept the fleet vehicle bid.
Second.
Motion by Iverson and second by Moulton. Any questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Item 4.2.2 has been approved. We'll move to 4.2.3.
Yes, Lake Area Tech recommends accepting the low bid from ARS for replacement of the precision machining welding roof area at the bid price of $177,165 for the membrane replacement option. The roof replacement is budgeted at $300,000 and included in the annual maintenance line item. The bid meets all specifications.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the roof replacement?
I move we approve the roof replacement as presented.
Motion by Moulton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Iverson. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roof replacement motion has been approved. Item 4.2.4.
Lake Area Tech recommends accepting the low bid from Dunick for resurfacing the aviation parking lot at the bid price of $317,000, which includes milling and salvaging the existing asphalt and additional curb and gutter. The parking lot surfacing is budgeted at $285,000 and included in the annual maintenance line item. The bid meets all specifications.
Is there a motion to approve the aviation parking lot?
So moved.
Motion by Iverson.
Second.
Second by Moulton. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion has been approved. We will move to item 4.2.5 with the equipment leases.
Lake Area Tech recommends approval of 4 equipment lease agreements in support of the heavy equipment operator and diesel programs, Transource truck and equipment for 2 Volvo wheel loaders at a combined value of $335,000, and the monthly lease cost at $1,000 per month for each loader. John Deere for 1 skid steer at a value of $79,653, and 2 tractors at a combined value of $275,700 with no cost leases to the program.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the equipment leases?
I move we approve the equipment leases as presented.
Motion by Moulton.
Second.
Second by Iverson. Questions, comments? Worth noting again, we appreciate our partnerships with the businesses that help make this possible. Thank you.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion has been approved. And we'll move to item 4.2.6, the hangar leases.
Yes, Lake Area Tech recommends approval of the hangar lease agreements with the Watertown Regional Airport at a combined rate of $401 per month. The additional hangar space is needed for the equipment storage related to the aviation program.
Is there a motion to approve the hangar leases as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Iverson.
Second
by Moulton. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hangar leases have been approved. And finally, we'll consider the surplus property resolution.
Lake Area Tech recommends approval of the surplus property resolution declaring an aviation twin engine airplane surplus for sale and a precision machining mold machine surplus for disposal.
Is there a motion to approve the surplus property resolution?
I move we approve the surplus property resolution.
Motion by Moulton.
Second.
Second by Iverson. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion has been approved. Thank you very much. I'll move to item 5.1 with public input on agenda or non-agenda items for the district. Hearing none, we'll move to item 5.2 with the Northeast Tech High School report.
Yeah, thanks. Board of Superintendents will meet again in September, once school's gotten rolling. Mr. Follick has the Northeast Tech ready to roll, and don't forget, board members, there is a Northeast Tech board meeting this Wednesday, the 16th at 5:45.
Thank you very much. We will hear from Tricia with our curriculum report. It appears. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm anxious to tell you what we've been up to all summer long. Lots of things happening. I kind of have 3 reports in one, so I'm going to start with the first piece is about our summer instruction. So this summer, mostly in June, we had a summer school happening at various levels. Most of it was happening at the middle school and the high school. Excuse me, the intermediate school, middle school, and high school. The first slide there is just what we call our math and reading camps. They're really more for gap filling. If students have missed out on things through our RTI process, we've identified their needs, and we had 230 students in the K-6 summer reading or math camps, and about 53 of those were in 2 or more areas between math, reading, or English language learning. 7th graders, we had 13 reading and 15 math, and 8th graders, 12 reading and 9 math. The next group would be more traditional summer school. These would be students who did not pass the class that they were in, and they need to recover that entire class. So the courses or credits recovered at the 7-8 level there, we had 56 credits recovered, and at the high school we had 40 recovered in those various content areas. We had a number of students working on extended school year. If you hear ESY, that's what that means. These are students who have been identified on their IEP as needing additional work in the summer so that they don't have learning loss, so that they can try to maintain the skills throughout the school, summer. So we had a number of instructors in a lot of different areas. You'll see early childhood, speech and language, OT, the Structured Learning Center, which would be our most cognitively low students, receive services in the summer. We had 69 K-6 students, 16 of those Structured Learning Center students, and then 13 at the high school level trying to earn credit for their work. And so those numbers are reflected there. And then the last one is about our English as a second language students. Sometimes we call them ESL, sometimes we call them ELL, same group of students, those students who English is not their first language. They have limited English proficiency based on their testing scores. The goal is to prevent that loss of language, so really to keep them reading, writing, speaking, listening, and hearing English throughout the summer. So we had 19 K-6 students and 5 at the 7-12 levels, kind of just working on some of those English skills throughout the summer. The next chunk of the report is about our curriculum. This is the heart of my summer, is working on those curriculum things. This slide just reminds us what curriculum is. So curriculum would include all of whatever we plan, the organization or the instruction, to meet the different standards that have been adopted. It includes all of the resources. So it used to be that we would pick a textbook and that would be the heart of our curriculum work. And now it's so much more than that, because it not only includes the textbook selection, but it's also the licenses, the assessments that we give, the instructional practices, all of those different pieces kind of develop our instructional plan or our curriculum plan. The state law, or the State Board of Education, sets the curriculum standards, and then we as a local district have to decide how we're going to make them real for our students and what that looks like within our own district. And so that's the heart of our work in the summer. It's nice to have fresh minds kind of coming together at a time away from immediate student needs, when we can really talk about what instruction ideally looks like, what we are hoping to see, what kinds of materials we are searching for. So the purpose of our curriculum, no matter what the content area, is to create the best learning opportunities for all of our students. And so to give it that well-rounded look, to focus on whatever content area is in question. This summer, we were in year 1 for math, year 2 for science, and so those were our main focuses this year. But we really rely on a research base, so trying to figure out what research tells us the best instruction looks like and materials are out there. Trying to provide very consistent coverage of the content to match our accreditation expectations. So whatever the state says we are supposed to teach, we have to prove that we fit that all into our curriculum planning. Consistency, so all of our students get a similar product. You know, all of our 3rd graders should have a similar experience no matter which school they attend. And so trying to make that consistent, making sure instruction is high quality, and especially with our new teachers, but also trying to figure out the best practices and refreshing people whenever that content is in the spotlight, and then being responsive throughout the life of that cycle to make sure that we're adapting to changes as they come up. The products of our curriculum then are listed there for you. We produce a curriculum map where we identify what those students' experiences look like, kind of trying to capture it in a page or two of kind of what that course or class looks like. We select the textbook and materials. We develop pacing, how long to spend on various things as a guideline for our staff. At the high school level and somewhat at the middle level, we identify our course selection, our sequence of courses, aligning it with what the state expects for graduation requirements, but also trying to make sure that we've developed a well-rounded program for our students as they move through. And then also trying to develop common assessments and the best instructional practices. So all those pieces go into those parts of curriculum. Our cycle is a 7-year cycle. We try to follow the state adoption cycle, but it just depends when their timing lines up with ours. We try to keep ours in pace with theirs. That 7-year cycle is when we really devote the majority of our budgeting and attention, our purchases, to that content area, so that we can keep things up to date as much as possible. It takes about 2 or more years to get through that process for each content area, and we try to involve all of the grades so we have a good representation across all stakeholders. So we are I'm doing it backwards. We're in year 2 of science. Year 2 groups typically meet in June because we've already done the selection, and so they're ready to dig in and get things ready for and work with their materials through the summer. So year 2 in science, we at the K-5 level, the decision was made to continue with mystery science as our main product. It is an online video-based product where the teacher facilitates, and then there's resources and things that go along with it, but Doug is the facilitator of most of the lessons in mystery science, and if you have an elementary age student, they know Doug, they know Doug's voice. He is quite a popular science teacher. We found really strong desire to keep that as our product for K-5, but what we wanted to do is refresh, kind of revisit all the videos and make sure they are still in line with what we wanted them to be, and then also developing the common assessments at all of the levels to make sure that we are teaching to the depth that's required. At 6-8, the big change that we made there is that we had been teaching earth science in 6th grade, life science in 7th grade, physical science in 8th grade, and they were self-contained at those grade levels. And based on our MAP scores and just the different testing that we are required to do with our students, we made the decision to become integrated rather than banded. So instead of being banded at each of those grades, each of those grades will teach a little bit of earth, a little bit of life, a little bit of physical science, so our students are seeing it throughout all 3 years of their middle grade experience. They selected McGraw-Hill as their content area, as their textbook. I might be saying that wrong. I think they picked Savas. I know it's all mixed up in my head, but they picked a textbook, and we trained with the textbook in June, and so those teachers are developing their curriculum maps to match that content, and we aligned it with the standards to make sure that everything is covered within those 3 years. I'm sure they told me.
Savas.
That's right, thank you. So that's been the big focus of 6-8. And then at 9-12, it was a mix between last year and this year. Some of their licensing expired, and so we picked over the course of 2 years. And so the next slide is going to show you what the high school programming looks like. That's a snippet from their course registration book. Typical students in 9th grade would take biology, which is a Savas product. In 10th grade, they would take physical science, which is a McGraw-Hill product. That's a new textbook that we adopted. And then for their third science, they're required to have at least 3. They can choose out of those different options there. And so each of those different courses selected their materials to align with their new curriculum maps. The addition there is that we added environmental science as a new course. It's a dual credit course that is offered for 11th and 12th grade students. We have not offered that in the past, or for a while at least. So it's a new add for our science offerings. Otherwise, those courses have existed, but they will go into a bit of a rotation to make sure that we can offer a wide variety of courses, but also keeping the course sizes to be appropriate for the staffing that we have. So not every one of those courses can be offered every year just based on the course numbers, and so we've developed a rotation. And then the next chunk, the year 1 work, we started year 1 in math, and it was actually a little bit more than year 1 because we spent last school year doing some foundational work with our K. We opened it to everyone, but we mainly had our K-6 teachers working on kind of a research study and best practices in math. But our math work, this first summer is usually foundational work, and where we try to identify what kinds of things we need to be looking for in our adoption. So we focus heavily on the South Dakota standards for math. Those were adopted in 2018 and they have not changed. And so we were working with the same set of standards that we had the last time we adopted, which allowed us to dig deeper into more of the practices that go with those. Those standards written in 2018 really emphasize the standards of mathematical practice, which we'll talk about in a moment, and then also identify the specific learning at each grade level. And they spiral or they build very developmentally to make sure that students see the right content at the right ages developmentally for the next level. So we really worked on developing and trying to understand the progression of skills, where the different skills start and stop, and where grade levels are supposed to pick up so that we don't have gaps in that learning. As I said, we did a foundational math study this last school year that it was voluntary, or people could participate. We did offer it as a graduate credit if people just desired that. But we spent all year, once a month, we met and spent a couple hours just looking at what the research said we should be looking for in terms of our math instruction. And then I'll talk about the science of remembering. That was a focus we did with all of our grades and our math programming. The next slide, this is just a reminder of what those standards of mathematical practice are. These are built into the state standards for all of the grade levels. They're found at the front of each grade set of standards, and they look the same because these are the skills that all of our math instruction should be built upon. Especially that very first one is a large challenge and has become more challenging over time. It's just that perseverance of students needs to be a real focus of our instruction. Particularly in math, we know that we need to really continue to emphasize that as a skill. All of those thread through lessons. You won't necessarily see a lesson on each of these singly, but they should be a part of the instruction that happens at all of the different grade levels and all of the different content areas within the math program. Those mathematical practices we did a lot of work with them when the standards first were adopted and when we adopted it 7 years ago. And just like most things, as you get away from it, it tends to become just the normal practice of what we do and it loses some of its emphasis. And so we know that we need to revisit that, and that's one of the things that the committee really talked quite a bit about. This slide, the blue, orange, and purple slide, talks about the core areas of foundational math. And I'm not going to tell you about all the bullets, but what I will tell you is that these are the foundational pieces that need to be strong for students to have success in math. The purple one, the operations core, that third one is what we think of as math, like adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, all of those pieces that we think of as math are built upon the number core and the relations core, those first two. The hope would be that number core would be in place before a student gets to kindergarten, but we're finding that to not be as true as it has been in the past. Those are the skills that are really developed: number, sequence, counting, cardinality, understanding the idea of a zero, counting on from a number. All of those really are strengthened a lot by dice games, card games, board games, like playing things with numbers and really understanding how numbers work. And our students have less experience with that. And so we are finding that that's a piece that we need to fill more strongly at our kindergarten and first grade levels than we have had to in the past. When those pieces are in place, the next one is the relations core. I'm going to stay there for a minute. And this is understanding more or less than, those benchmark numbers of really knowing 5 and 10 as the base numbers, understanding how to break numbers apart and put them back together, the teen numbers, and then how they all build. And those pieces, the number core, relations core, would be what we call sometimes number sense. When they're in place, you don't always even know what they are because you just do them automatically because it's a part of just your sensibility of understanding numbers and how they work. When a student doesn't have those things in place, it causes a lot of problems in that purple area because they don't have that foundation to build upon. And so we spent a lot of time talking about how can we strengthen the number sense, how can we tap back into it and remind students of what they already know, because we know from our programming they have seen these things, we have taught these things, we have built our program around these expectations, but it's not sticking as well as we would like sometimes, and some of those gaps then show up. And so how do we make sure that those core pieces are in place? Now you can go to the next one. A big piece of it is just related to fact fluency. This is not just memorizing facts, but it's also thinking flexibly about numbers, being accurate, being efficient, picking the best strategy to find the answer, and then using them appropriately, picking the best skill for the right situation. And it moves from the counting and reasoning into mastery. Some kids do this very fluidly and you don't even know it's happening, and some need a lot more work with the hands-on, the counting part, making that transition or the bridging over to the reasoning it out, understanding why it is that way until it finally is mastered or more automatic. That automaticity is very developmental. It's got to go through all those stages to get there. And so really reviewing what that looks like and just how can we strengthen those pieces. So a piece of our summer work then was focused on the science of remembering. We just called it that. We worked on this with our K-4 grade levels. We did a piece of it with our math curriculum committee. We did some of it with our new teachers, just really trying to understand what is it that makes students able to remember things and make things stick, so that we can draw upon those pieces that seem to have gotten lost. Like, we know we taught it, why is it not seeming to be familiar? And so Michelle Wells, one of our instructional coaches, did a really nice job of presenting the science of remembering to those different groups, trying to help us remember what it takes to make things last in their memory, and how we can make those experiences more memorable so that we can rely on them being in place. This slide talks about our math progressions. You've seen this has been, I've presented this to the board before. This is maybe a little different colored, but that green column is the traditional pathway that most of our students progress through on their math sequencing. All students are required to have at least 3 years of high school math, so that bold line after Algebra 2 would be where they hit the 3 credits of high school math, and they hit it at different places. But what it does is it allows them to have room in their schedule for those additional math courses, or if there's any need for remediation, that's kind of how that fits in there. So this next slide is just a reminder of those effective teaching practices. There happen to be 8 of them. They are different than the standards of mathematical practice. There are 8 good teaching practices, and so really trying to make sure that that's what's happening in our math classrooms, because we know that we have strong math teachers. We have strong math. We've chosen our math products to be the right fit for what we need, and so really trying to dig into how does all this look, and how do we make sure that we are continuing to strengthen that program. So some of the steps that we will be working on are to reemphasize our standards of mathematical practice. I'm on the next one. Focusing on the retention, trying to tap into those memorable things and make sure that those gaps stay filled. Professional development around the math progressions. That's the idea of how did we prepare students to learn fractions? What happened in first grade to build the foundation? And then what did second grade look like in third grade? So it's not just new fractions in fourth grade, it's all those pieces that happen to there. And the same thing with our high school levels. Where does it start? Where did it pick up within their K-12 sequencing? And then how can we brush it off and make it usable so that it doesn't feel like a brand new skill every time they see it? Really relying on the data to help us, and then examining our programming needs. We know that we need to devote, make sure our math instructional time is very protected, and making sure that it is sufficient to meet our needs. And then looking at our math acceleration plan, the different pathways that students can take for math, trying to figure out if we're getting enough students into the right columns on that chart to push them to their capabilities. And then, of course, we'll be looking for materials, but I think all those other bullets are equally important to picking the right text or series, but we need to have the right instruction in place to know what that right fit would be. So that has been kind of our curriculum focus for the summer. The third chunk of my report is just to tell you more about our staff development pieces. The biggest one we undertook this summer is we did SIA, or Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol. We call it SIA. These are instructional strategies designed to support our English language learners. We have trained staff on this in the past. Pockets of staff, like all of the Lincoln staff, have been through SIOP training. We had a team at the intermediate schools, some at the intermediate. We've had people trained, but we hadn't trained everybody in a more systematic way. And with our snow days last summer, we were able to have all of our 512 staff participate in SIOP training this summer. That wouldn't have been possible without those days, because it was a big investment to have that number of staff participate. It's a 2-day training. Bobby Kilber, our consortium facilitator, she's with the ELL consortium, she provided the training for us, and Maria and I also did one for us to make sure that we could accommodate all of our staff. We had over 150 people put through that. They receive a book of strategies, and there is some follow-up in the school year where they'll just review. They wrote some lessons, and they'll revisit those and kind of make sure that they are incorporating some of those best practices, because even if you don't have an ELL student in your classroom, these practices are good instructional practice for anyone. And that's really the feedback we were hearing from staff, is that this is good for no matter which student's sitting in front of you, in ways to meet their needs with more visuals, more explanation, being real conscious of our vocabulary, and those pieces that would support all students. Because of our snow situation, we did not host a June Summer Academy like we typically have. We offered some online book studies this year as just a different option. And so this is a list of the different online pieces that we did offer to staff. They could do it either for continuing ed hours or for graduate credit if they chose to do the credit option. And this is the number of people who earned the credits in these different courses. We had a few more participate, but not do the credit. And so those numbers aren't exactly who was there, but this is over 120 credits earned in these different book studies and different options that we had. Our coaches developed these to be sort of self-paced. Like, there were discussion posts, but you could do it sequentially, or you could work through it pretty quickly depending on what you wanted to do. They paced it out, and all of the courses closed then in August. So some chose to do it all in June and they wanted to have it done. Some chose to spread it out and they finished then in August. But we, talking to the coaches, good feedback on the ability to offer the variety of things here. And now that these are developed, they can be reused and offered again if we choose these same topics, or we could develop new ones. Some of these, like the very first one, they're becoming a daily 5 classroom. That's really more of a management structure, and we have people wanting to redo it because I just need to refresh on that. And so I could see that one being one that we offer repeatedly, whereas the math study went along with our curriculum work. We may not offer that again for a bit, but we now have these prepared and so that they would be ready to do that in the future. We did offer Summer Academy in August. It was smaller than it has been in the past, partly because we had these other options happening, partly because I think people were just needing a break. We didn't have the attendance that we have had in the past, but we still had about 100 different people attend, over 1,000 hours of instruction. And so it is still worth doing our academy. We had about 50 sessions we hosted in the high school this year because we have typically hosted at Lake Area and we were in the construction, so we hosted it here with air conditioning. It worked much better than it would have in the past, so it was good. Thanks to the high school for hosting us. And we had those people earned credits in the Summer Academy options. This is not in your paper slides because I somehow missed it, but I did want to also point out that we hosted our new Teacher Academy at the end of July. We had over 30 new certified staff members that did our new Teacher Academy. Our goals really are to build that cohort, to have them meet each other, to meet our coaches, to meet our administrators, and just the support people within the district. And so we provide all those topics that you see on the board: building relationships, lesson design, setting up your classroom environment, professionalism. They get their technology at that new Teacher Academy, and so making sure they can log into all of their accounts, making sure they have access and kind of understand our protocols for utilizing technology in our district. And then they spend a half a day on our Watertown or management skills. Tim Cruz facilitated that with a new group. And in the afternoon of that third day, they do either their mentoring kickoff if they're part of the state mentoring program, or they have time with a curriculum partner who can talk them through what the curriculum looks like or their programming looks like at their particular position. That new Teacher Academy is set to go right before Summer Academy, so then their final 10 hours of it they choose things out of Summer Academy to match their needs. Some of them we say, this is your choice because we need you to have this piece, but with 30 of them, there's no way we could provide 5 days that all match. And so by doing the 3 days together and then the 2 days of mix and match, we're able to really customize to their needs so that they're ready to start with us when school starts. The timeline just shows all the things that kind of happened. I hit on most of those, but you'll notice that our K4 grade levels happen in June. We host our early childhood day. We've had the community really come to count on that. This was our 3rd annual, and they contact me to say, when's it gonna be? So they expect to come and participate, and it's nice to have that partnership with our community partners. We had several mental health trainings in June. HSA provided those for us, so thanks to them for their support. July was mostly our math work and then our new teacher academy, and then August is, or July, or late July and August are getting ready for the school year with all those new things. So that's what we've been up to all summer. Any questions I can answer for you?
Catch your breath.
It's busy.
One question for the online course options, and I apologize if you covered this. For the 2 that were listed at the bottom there, the virtual mental health and the virtual SPED,
Yep.
are those just that nobody elected those?
They did, but
Okay.
they are more, the mental health topics were from USD and they were
Okay.
only available in June. They were basically an hour video followed by an hour discussion. And so we said if our people do those, we would take them in 2-hour pieces and apply them towards Summer Academy.
I
And
see.
so we had people do them, but they're wrapped into the Summer Academy
Okay.
hours. And the SPED is very similar. They were shorter pieces, but we thought they were valuable enough that we offered them as an option to roll in.
Okay.
So for summer school, how many didn't show up? I know you wouldn't have maybe an exact number, but is that a concern?
I defer to anybody
Maybe,
else.
maybe Dr. Ballinger had the K6, if you had an idea of.
Let me count. I
Is
mean,
it-
per grade, there was probably, I'm gonna say 5 to 10 kids per grade that did not show up. K6.
But that's also after we expected them to come. So they get invited and the
Right.
parents commit.
And then we call for the first 2 weeks, every day.
How about 7-12? Any idea?
Well, summer school is different than the camps. Summer school, everybody showed up at some point, but there were about 8 kids who did not successfully finish what they need to finish, and we're literally still working on that at this point.
I can say we had anywhere from 10 to 20 that did not show up at the high school, and that's with phone calls and reminders, just on the gen ed section.
So I see at the high school that 13 in credit recovery and only 11 credits earned.
Are you looking at the ESI one?
Yeah. Just an observation.
So that would be
That would be
our special ed
special ed.
students.
Yeah. So, curriculum. Curriculum map, is that the same thing as putting a whole curriculum on the wall kind of concept?
It's what we build from the curriculum on the wall. So the biology curriculum map shows which units in biology, which order, how many days on each, the assessments that we tend to give, the standards that are aligned.
So kind of graphing it all
Yep.
out.
Yep.
In the future, maybe there's some discussion of it, at least among state principals, possibly removing Smarter Balance from the high school and substituting ACT, so it's just something to think about. It's a more comprehensive test, and as freshmen, we also give the pre-ACT. So actually, there's a bigger incentive to do well on that test, ACT, rather than Smarter Balance. We didn't have any science scores for Smarter Balance for 2 years. I'm trying to refresh if we had science scores this year. I don't think I saw any.
We looked at
Does that ring a
science
bell, Mr.
scores.
Barrios? We did have science scores
Yeah, but
last fall when you did your report, right?
Well, they don't make them public until there's enough years of data to make them public. So like we'll get results for our own eyes, but into like reports them generally, but usually does not become part of the report card until then. We've got a few years of testing.
So on the high school level for science, and we're required students, is that a state requirement or a high school requirement that they take either chemistry or physics?
We have to ensure that they cover the physical science standards. And so ideally they would take both, but we have built chemistry to cover, or built those into the physical science class so that
Yeah.
they can choose if they one chemistry, one physics.
I need to check on the state, what the state requires, and then, because it used to be that we would require, either you had to take physics or you had to take chemistry.
They require that you cover the physical science standards.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
very good, thanks. For AP chemistry, well, we don't offer AP chemistry, we offer dual credit second year chemistry. Main concern there is that it's often a repeat, a rehash of the first year chemistry. There's not much rigor there. So that's something to think about. And a lot of those dual credit requirements come from universities and colleges. So how rigorous are those courses? It's something that we should look at. Maybe we want AP chemistry instead, something a bit more rigorous. Research standards. So math, it's almost as if we need a parent night for,
We've talked about that, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that parents are aware of what we're teaching, how we're teaching. Might put to bed a lot of concerns, something to think about. And I noticed on science, we did switch that around a few years ago. We switched around biology and physical science because with physical science, students hadn't had enough algebra and math background. So now it's in the second year, 10th grade. So that's a big improvement. And there's another factor. Research is off. As educators, we throw out research constantly as if it kind of stops conversation. But there's a couple other factors that we should consider. Experience and common sense. What works in the classroom? What is experienced teachers? What was successful? What was not? So it brings up a question on these curriculum committees. Do we have a balance of veteran teachers and new teachers? Because new teachers really don't have the background to see what has worked.
So at the K, I'll use the math as the example. At K4, we had 2 people per grade, so they represent their group of 12. 5 and 6, we have 4 math teachers at grade 5 and 4 at grade 6, and so they were all included. All of our middle school, all of our math department at the high school. So everybody 5 through 12 who teaches math is on the committee, and then 2 of each K4.
Thanks. Do we train paraprofessionals in any of this?
We do. Which part are you?
Well, curriculum, some of the other aspects, classroom management.
When they're hired, so tomorrow we will have our new para training, and half of their day is Watertown, the management pieces.
Okay.
In terms of the content area, it really depends what level they're at and who they're servicing, and so that would be up to their buildings, principals, supervising teachers to help them with those strategies. But we do include them when we do in-service, like when we did our guided math training a few years ago, they would have been included in that, so they could hear those things.
It's good because, you know, in past years we haven't. It's been a concerted effort that we're really doing that, so that's good. And finally, textbook selection. Nationally, in the past, and probably still true, we're hostage to what happens in the big states because they pretty much dictate to the textbook companies what they want. So it's often hard to pick materials.
It is. It's a different game now because there are a lot more small companies that they couldn't survive before because it was just the big companies that could publish everything and that's all you had to choose from. Well, now you can mix and match a lot more pieces. It makes it more challenging, but it does make it a better fit maybe for what we need. So there are more options, which can be its own problem.
That's good. I think online has maybe helped that a bit too, rather than hard copy.
And they can stay more fresh so that they can update things so that you don't wait 7 years before that science chart is outdated, for instance.
And then on the horizon, the next hurdle will be social studies.
Not for this summer.
Anything else? Thank you for the report. Appreciate it. We'll move to item 5.4 with the first reading of the policy.
Yeah, it is recommended to update the facility rental and uses charges to a flat hourly rate with the addition of an hourly custodial fee. The rates will better align with the overhead costs associated with the rental of district facilities.
Is there a motion?
Just pass it.
Yeah, just a discussion item there. Sorry about that. All right, we'll move to the bills. Is there a motion to approve the bills, please?
I move we approve the bills.
Motion by Moulton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Iverson. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6.1 has been approved. We'll move to personnel. It's item 6.2.1 and the resignations.
Just a few resignations there of some classified positions, and would recommend your approval on those.
Is there a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve resignations.
Motion by Lohr, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rossman. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resignations have been approved. We'll move to the contract recommendations and addendums, please.
A bunch of contracts and addendums here. Most importantly, I would say that we are getting all of our classroom positions filled with this motion, so we'll have a full teaching staff for this school year. We've got a few specialty type positions that are not filled yet, as far as SLPs and school psychs, as well as some paraprofessional bus driver type positions, classified positions. One to add to this that we hired today that's not noted is Isabel Messberg, who is sped para at McKinley. 7.5 hour day at $15 an hour.
Okay.
So with that addition, would recommend these for approval.
Is there a motion to approve as presented?
I will make a motion to approve contract recommendations and addendums.
Motion by Lohr, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rossman. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6.2.2 has been approved. We'll move to the stipend requests.
These 5 staff members have submitted requests for credits this fall and would recommend your approval. They'll get paid once they pass and show transcript of payment for those.
Is there a motion to approve the stipends?
I will make a motion to approve the stipends.
Motion by Lohr, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rossman. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's been approved. We'll move to property, item 6.3.1 with the consider park and rec facility agreement.
Yes, the facility agreement outlines the rental to accommodate the usage of the park and rec facilities at a total cost of $14,500 for school year 23-24.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Iverson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Moulton. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's been approved. Item 6.3.2, consider the auditorium rental agreement.
The facility agreement outlines the rental to accommodate the usage of the auditorium gymnasium at a total cost of $18,000 for school year 23-24.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move the approval of the auditorium rental agreement.
Motion by Moulton.
Second.
Second by Iverson. Do you have a question? Is that the same amount as last year, or?
It is, yep, that's
Okay.
the same amount.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's been approved. Item 6.3.3, consider presence learning contract.
Yeah, this is, we needed to, we started with the contract with Presence last year to help us with virtual speech language services. This year, due to the fact that we are short a couple, actually 3 speech therapists, we will need to utilize Presence Learning. We had good reviews last year on the use of this, and so we'll look to continue that again with them this year. So recommend for your approval.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Iverson.
Second.
Second by Moulton. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's been approved. We'll move to item 6.4 with the consider the approval of the 23-24 consolidated application.
Yes, I would note that a copy of the consolidated application is available in the district office. But this is our annual application. We are allotted funding for title services, and we need to write our consolidated application in narrative form so we can justify the payment to us for those services.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval of the consolidated application for title funding.
Motion by Moulton.
Second.
Second by Iverson. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's been approved. Item 6.5 with the return to school plans.
Yes, this document is the same as last year. We were pretty much in a return to normal situation last year, with the exception of our mitigation for COVID positives. Last year, we asked students and staff to stay home for 5 days and then mask for 5 days. This year, we are recommending that in the instance of a COVID positive test, that people stay home, whether students or adults stay home until they are symptom-free. And this would be the last year that we need to submit such plans. It coincides with the funding, and this is our last year for funding from the ESSER funds.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the return to school plan.
Motion by Lohr. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rossman. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's been approved. Item 6.6, consider the fall athletic fundraising.
Yes, this is a request from our activities department to go ahead and sell Arrow Pride cards. Once again, that has been done for several years, and since it is door to door, the request is being brought before you as the school board and recommend for your approval.
Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the fundraising.
Motion by Lohr. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rossman. Whoever's listening, please come find me. I'd like to buy one. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion's been approved. Item 6.7 with open enrollment requests.
Yes, we have 6 open enrollment requests there for your approval.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval of the open enrollments, or make a motion for the approval.
Motion by Lohr. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rossman. Any questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's been approved. And we'll move to the 1328 10s.
Yes, we have 2 132810s also recommended for your approval.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve the 132810s.
Motion by Moulton. Is there a
Second.
second? Second by Iverson. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's been approved. Thank you very much. We'll move to item 7.1 with the administrative reports and the pre-service agendas.
Yes, the couple of notes on pre-service. We have tomorrow, actually just kind of go in order. Tonight, actually in about 3 minutes, we have our open house for the remodeled Watertown High School. So that was that 3-year remodel process that we were on. Board members, you have a handout that will be given out to folks who come. We've got student ambassadors there ready for tours if you'd like to take one. I'd be happy to take school board on one here when we're done if you'd like to see. So we're excited about that. That goes tonight from 6:30 to 8. Tomorrow we start with new teachers. The new teachers start at the Watertown Intermediate School at 10 for some introductions and a little bit of information, followed by a bus tour, and then invited out to the Country Road Barn. We thank the Watertown Chamber for hosting our new teacher luncheon again. That's tomorrow at noon, so board members, let me know if you're going. And then on Wednesday, we start with all staff at 8 o'clock in the D.D. Miller. A big thank you to Reliabank, who provides our lunch that day. We're excited to have a gentleman by the name of John Perricone as a keynote for our staff on why I am a teacher. He's a national motivational speaker for education, so that's a good one. We have 2 more days of in-service on Thursday and then next Tuesday. And then just a reminder to parents, and staff that we do have our pre-parent teacher conferences on Monday, a week from today, the 21st, from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Families should be getting information from their individual schools on that. And then we start school on the 24th. A couple other things to report to the board. One, we completed a successful accreditation. We were notified in that about a week after our July board meeting, so we're excited about that. It was a new process from 5 years ago when we did it, so big thank you to Mr. Barrios, Mrs. Walker, and the principals and other folks who helped with the successful accreditation. And kind of a big plus, we opened phase 1. We hosted our very first varsity activity on that on Friday, where our boys and girls soccer teams played Rapid City Central. So other than it being kind of hot on Friday afternoon, it looked great. Got a lot of rave reviews from people from Watertown and Rapid City, and so we're excited about that. But this fall we will be playing varsity soccer as well as lower level football games on the turf. So, and just keep putting a plug. It is open to the public for walking and running. No seeds, no pets, some things like that. There are some posted rules. We would ask that people continue to abide by the rules so that we can keep it available for the public. So.
We have another board meeting coming.
Yes, and also, yes, a reminder to the school board, we do have our board training on the 23rd. Starts at 10 a.m. And we'll probably just do that here. Thanks
2
very much.
hours or so.
Roughly, yes. It's Mr. Holbeck, it might creep above 2 hours.
Okay. All right. Is there any report for Dr. Danielson? Hearing none, we will seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Iverson, second by Moulton. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.